Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, federal government dismisses fears of increasing taxes for companies, says more of 2016 budget will be funded through non-oil revenue. Minister of State for Aviation orders immediate investigation into the grounding of a Turkish Airlines plane by aggrieved passengers in Abuja. It's the end of the road for some terrorists as they are nabbed in Kaduna State with explosive devices. And at least 500 soldiers deployed to deal with unprecedented floods in Yorkshire and Lancashire. Begin tonight with the funding of the 2016 budgets. The Minister of Budgets and Planning, Mr. Udoma, says the federal government will spend internally generated revenue, but will not increase taxes for companies. Speaking this evening in an exclusive interview with our correspondent, Imana Amawe, the minister said the government is trying to build an economy that is non-oil dependent.
As you know, oil is the main source of both foreign exchange as well as government earnings. And so it is a challenge. The way that we intend to do it is by looking inwards, by projecting and trying to collect more in terms of taxes. Not by increasing taxes. We're not increasing VAT. We're not increasing companies' income tax. What we plan to do is the efficiency of collection. Indeed, for the smaller companies, we intend to actually reduce their taxes so that we raise the level of voluntary compliance. So consequently, we're expecting to raise 1.45 trillion from taxes. We're also expecting to raise over 1.5 trillion from government independent revenues. There are many agencies of government that have surpluses. NMPC, CBN, NIMASA, Nigerian Communications Commission. Very many of them, what we intend to do is to sweep up their surpluses in accordance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act. So 80% of their surpluses will be swept off and taken as a means of funding the budget. But those two sources are not themselves enough. So there is a funding gap. And that funding gap we're going to plug by borrowing. We intend to borrow about 1.8 trillion. Half of it, 900 billion, will be domestic. Half of it, 900, will be foreign borrowing. And then the small gap, which still exists, we will plug by financing items, such as recoveries, privatization proceeds. And such recoveries we will use to also plug the gap. So those are the sources. In addition to that, we're cutting some costs. For instance, the recurrent expenditure has been cut for the executive by 9%. So a number of foreign trips will have to be reduced. Conferences, workshops, those will have to be reduced. Because right now, everybody is going through hard times. And we feel that the government itself must show by example. We want to have a lean and mean government apparatus.
There was a promise of 5,000 naira monthly stipend for vulnerable and poor Nigerians. With the way the economy is as we speak, and a whole lot of burden on the government, how feasible or how achievable is this promise?
There's a lot of work already going on, on this in the Office of the Vice President. And we're working with donor agencies, and we're working with, other consultants and all that. We're looking at trying to get accurate data I mean, the key thing in this thing, you must get accurate data. So it's a work in progress, but we're determined to do it.
That was the Minister of Budgets and Planning, Udoma. And the Minister of State for Aviation, Mr. Sidi Serika, has ordered an immediate investigation into the incident that led to the grounding of a Turkish Airlines plane by aggrieved passengers at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. Addressing journalists shortly after visiting the airport, the minister queried and suspended 3 officials of the Abuja airport, the airport manager, the terminal manager, and the head of security, saying it is a security breach for passengers who invade the airport's tarmac.
Some Nigerian passengers of Turkish Airlines over the weekend reacted in a most unexpected way to their missing luggage while in transit. The protesting passengers grounded one of the airline's planes at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, by blocking the runway. Prompted by the reaction of the passengers, the Minister of State for Aviation paid an unscheduled visit to the airport to interrogate the officials. The acting head of security of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria and the airport manager explained what triggered the passengers' reaction.
What really happening here is that there are other security operatives also with them, but the fact that they are so aggrieved, that's why they overpowered and being that the carousel...
No, you're not telling me the truth. Before I come here, I heard there was only one man there. He has confirmed there is only one man. Now you are telling me that there is one man and there are other security operators.
No, one security, aviation security officer.
Yes, one, only one.
I'm referring to AFSEC.
AFSEC.
But I gave call to the commandant himself and the airport divisional police officer who sent his men.
Of AFSEC?
Access control, sir.
So did you do that?
Yes, we've tried, but they overpowered the manpower, sir.
With one man?
Yes, sir.
After a guided tour of the airport, the Minister of State for Aviation announced the government's plans to ensure that such an incident does not occur again.
Some agitated passengers of a Turkish airline that arrived without luggages. The passengers now found themselves on their way into the ramp where the aircraft is parked, which is a breach of security. The primary purpose of the government is security of lives and property of its citizens. And the cardinal point within which this government came into power is the promise that they will secure the country and manage it. And we cannot fail in aviation. We cannot fail in this very important assignment at the very important point, having regard to global terrorism and where aviation has become a source of terror. We cannot afford these lapses. It is not correct. We condone it. We would have ordered for investigation now into the matter immediately, and all of those that are manning the various places, the airport manager, the terminal manager, and the head of security should hand over to the next man in rank, pending investigation to find out what happened.
Although no official of the Turkish airline was on ground to state their side of the story, airport officials confirmed that some of the passengers have been waiting at the airport for days expecting their luggage, with some stranded and some more forced to spend their Christmas at the airport without any information on when to expect their luggage.
The federal government says it is now determined more than ever to open up the economy and allow foreign investors explore investment opportunities in Nigeria. But in a recent forum in Lagos, attended by the Transport Minister Chibuike Amechi, local manufacturers suggested that non-oil exports be boosted by supporting indigenous manufacturers. And for most of them, the way to go in 2016 is to promote non-oil exports to sustain the economy. Joining me now to look at this proposal for 2016, focusing on non-oil exports, is the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf. You're welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So it isn't. You think it's a bit late that we're actually considering non-oil exports? We should have started much earlier, because obviously by next year oil will not become a major source of revenue for Nigeria.
Well, it's late, but it's better late than never. I think if we get the policy environment right, we'll be able to harness sufficient domestic and foreign capital to be able to diversify the economy. Because the key issue here is not even so much about non-oil export. It's about diversifying the economy. Because this is a large economy in itself. It's the largest economy on the continent. It has the largest population, which correlates with the size of the market. So a lot can happen even within this economy. But the policy environment has to be right. You have to get policy right in the key sectors of the economy, in oil and gas, even though we want to move away from oil and gas. But there's still a lot that can happen in oil and gas. There's still a lot of investment that can take place upstream, downstream. We have been talking about the PIB, for instance, for quite a while. If that is put in place, a lot could happen in terms of investment. We've been talking about deregulation and reform in the downstream sector. A lot of opportunities exist. There are a lot of opportunities, even in infrastructure, public-private partnership. A lot of opportunities also exist there.
I'm glad you mentioned infrastructure, because you need that, for indigenous companies to even grow. You need electricity, you need, you need to look at multiple taxation and so on. Do you see all of this changing in 2016 to help us, create the enabling environment for investment?
Yes, the whole thing is about enabling environment. And if the political will is there, I see that happening. Now, for instance, we have been battling with the issue of the forex policy of the CBN, for instance. It has caused a lot of disruption to a lot of businesses in the last couple of months. Not much has happened in terms of steps taken to correct it. Although the good news is that, during the president's address to the National Assembly, he did allude to it, that the policy was going to be reviewed. That's a major thing that needs to be done if you want to actually promote investments. Then we also need a very robust public-private partnership framework for all sectors of the economy.
I hear you very clearly, and that's where we leave off the discussion. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the News at 10, Mr. Muda Yusuf.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Now in part two, after the break, Labour Union and the Nigeria Union of Teachers asked government to involve them in the recruitment of 500,000 teachers. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.